Yeah, hi Vinas. I'm back here with one more topic of community dentistry. So now in this presentation, we are going to discuss about the sampling and the sampling designs. Okay, which is an easy topic, but in examination point of view. Okay, so the first foremost important thing before we go into the topic is a little note about your preparation. Okay, so many of you are saturated, like going through the preparation phase for a longer duration of time. You may be frustrated. So these are all the common words that we regularly hear from the aspirants. Okay, so what my suggestion is, you try to create some clusters. Okay, clusters means some material. Okay, so you have different aspects, like one is synopsis reading, the second one is the problem solving, the third one is you have many exams on your website, fourth one is you have your WhatsApp based discussions, fifth one is you have videos on the websites and the YouTube. Okay, so because you have many such aspects, like five aspects from here, you have your dental pearls, you have your Vivek Jain for this particular topic, or any other book for other topics. You have many such aspects like a clusters. Okay, so when you're bored or frustrated at a single cluster, you try to jump into the second cluster. Like for example, you're reading the synopsis. Okay, after 1 hour you're bored, you're frustrated, you're not at all interested. You're not at all show any sort of interest. Then you try to jump from this cluster to the next cluster, like problem solving. Okay, you do some MCQs. If you're bored, then jump to the WhatsApp based discussions or jump to the video based, so that you keep on, like, the main important aspect of preparation for a dental student. I don't want to compare with a medical student. Okay, for a dental student who are preparing seriously in India, in our country, in India, is you should not waste time. Okay, time. Okay, even if you are not properly organized, or if you are not able to complete your tasks or your schedule on time, that's okay, acceptable, because most of the people, they don't do this. But if you conserve your time, if you save your time, like jumping from here and there, doing something, like, you should not waste time at the end of the day, but you should do some fruitful work. It may be organized or disorganized. So guys, please do jump from here to there. If you are bored or frustrated, if you are not able to keep the pace, make sure you try to jump from here and there, so that you will not waste time. Okay, that's my personal suggestion. So apart from this, as already said, that I'm going to talk about sampling. The first word is, we need to learn about what is a sample. Okay, so what is sample? Very simple. Sample is a part of population. Okay, and few people, they call it as universe. The other names of the sample are universe. The other name that is used is reference. The other name that is used is parent population. Okay, sample is a part of population, which is also called as a universe, reference, or a parent population. Whereas coming to the definition of sampling, sampling is a process or a technique of selecting a sample of an appropriate size and characteristic features from a group of people. So this is a rough, uh, uh, the tagline that is given to sample and sampling. So coming to the next important aspect is the ideal requirements of a sample. Okay, the ideal requirements of a sample. Okay, so these are the things which I have taken from Shobhan Peter. Okay, the ideal requirements of the sampling are: first one is efficiency, second one is representativeness, third one is measurability, fourth one is size, fifth one is coverage, sixth one is goal orientation, seventh one is feasibility, eighth one is economical and cost efficiency. If you want, you can just go back to your Shobhan Peter and just have a look of what does the word efficiency mean. Just look these eight things which are important in examination point of view. Okay, the PDF of Shobhan Peter. I hope you have your Shobhan Peter. Okay, so just go and just have a look. Okay, this is there in the research methodology and biostatistics chapter. Okay, the 8 points, just have a glance. Okay, so apart from this, the next level what we need to discuss is about the sampling. Sampling in general, if you talk about the classification, it is of two types. One is random sampling, the second one is non random sampling. One is random sampling and the second one is the non-random sampling. So coming to the random sampling is also called as a probability sampling. It's also called as probability sampling technique, or it is called as non-purposive sampling. Okay, it's also called as non-purposive sampling, whereas non-random sampling is called as non-probable sampling, okay, and it is called as purposive sampling. Okay, so please do make a note. Okay, so the next level of questioning is which type of sampling techniques are going to come under random, which type of techniques are going to come under non-random is the most frequently asked question. So the sampling techniques which comes under random sampling are simple random sampling. The second one is systemic random sampling. The second one is systemic random sampling. The third one is stratified random sampling. The fourth one is multi-stage random sampling. The fifth one is multi-phase random sampling. And the last one is cluster sampling, cluster random sampling. So these are the 6 things that comes under random sampling. The second one is non-random sampling. The non-random sampling, the first type is convenience sampling. The second type is quota sampling technique. The third type is snowball sampling technique, and the fourth type is clinical trial random sampling. So we are going to discuss all these things individually. A point to be added, a point to be noted. Clear? They can ask you questions, which of the following is a random sampling, which of the following is a non-random sampling. Okay, clear? I hope you're very clear. The next goes is simple random sampling, the first type of random sampling. So most frequently asked question is this one. Okay, the chances of a unit to be in the population is equal and it is known. It is equal and it is known. There is a slight controversy regarding this. Okay, there was a different answer I think in your dentist, but mandatory you need to follow this. It is equal and known means the chances of picking is equal to every individual, and it is known that the unit will be picked from this population only. It means, okay, it's very simple, equal and known. This simple random sampling is also called as unrestricted random sampling. Okay, this is also called as unrestricted random sampling. And if you just have a look, this is most commonly used for a small population which is homogeneous. Okay, a small population of homogeneous, and mostly it is useful for the clinical trials. So in this method of simple sampling, there are different types that you can use. One is lottery method, means randomly picking the people. The second one is table of random numbers, or table of random numbers, where you're going to give random numbers and you're going to pick one group of people, or simply by following a computer software. These are the subtypes of simple random sampling. The main important thing that you need to focus is on equal and known chances of being selected. Okay. The next goes is the second one, that is systematic random sampling. Okay, the second one is systematic random sampling. In this systematic random sampling, you are going to arrange the population in a particular order. And for example, if you are giving numbers for all these 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 100, so you're going to pick something like, for example, you're going to pick 11th, going to pick 10th or 11th. So every 10, 20, 30, you're going to pick such things. Okay, so such is called as, that's every nth unit in the population list, you're going to choose it. Okay, when it is useful when your crowd is large, your crowd is non-homogeneous, and this is a sampling technique that is of choice. For example, you have a population of 1000 and with which you are planning to select 20 samples. So 20 by 1000 by 20, so it is every 50th person you have to pick. So 1 after 1, the 50th one is 51. then it is 101, then it is 151. So you're going to select all these numbers and you're going to include them in the sampling. That type of sampling technique is called as systemic random sampling. The next one is stratified random sampling. Stratified word gives an idea that group. Strata means a group, you know that. Okay, so this is again useful for a large non-homogeneous population. Okay, so this is again a large non-homogeneous population, gives more representative of a particular sample than simple random sampling. Rather than using a simple random sampling, for example, if you have a group of people, okay, if you have the best example of this stratified random sampling is if you have a group of people of 1000 and out of which 600 are male and 400 are female. So what you're going to do, these two are, you're going to make it as a strata, means a group. Again, in this particular group you are going to do random sampling. In this particular group you are going to random sampling. You are going to combine these two samples. That sampling technique is called as stratified random sampling technique. So there will be no over representation or an under representation of a particular group, because for example if you are going for a simple random sampling for this population, you may take more females or more males. So by which you are going to make in strata, you are going to overcome that particular disadvantage. That next comes is the multi-stage sampling technique. Okay, so next one is the multi-stage sampling technique. Okay, so the multi-stage sampling technique, the main advantage is the flexibility in the sampling. Okay, introduce the flexibility in the sampling, and this sampling is done at different stages. For example, if you take India into, for example, if you take world into consideration. So if you are planning a sampling, if you are planning a study on the world, population on the world, then you are going to do sampling. How you are going to do sampling is, world can be split into continents. Okay, so next stage it is going to split into countries, India. Next stage it is going to split into states or regions like North India, South India, East India, West India. Next is states. States are divided into districts. Districts are divided into mandals, something like that. So you're going to split into different groups in multiple stages. That is called as multi-stage sampling technique. Next one is multi-phase sampling technique. You're going to do sampling at successive phases. The best example is, if you want to do sampling or if you want to identify you're going to plan for a TB survey. So in the first phase, what you're going to do, you're going to do this is a type 4 delayed hypersensitivity test, that is Montauk's test, is done in the first phase. Then when the test is positive, for example, you have taken 100 samples, the test is positive for 55. So rather than doing the X-ray for all the people, it is better to do only for these people, because X-ray changes can be seen only these 55. So next is you are going to do X-ray for all these 55 cases. Then the X-ray shows modifications for 35. Okay, then you go for the sputum test to be positive. The sputum test is positive for only 25. Rather than including all the 100 people in the sample, it is better to include all the 25 people. Means you are going to segregate the people at multiple phase. That is called as multiple phase sampling technique. The next one is cluster random sampling. Okay, so the cluster random sampling, you're going to divide the population into groups or into clusters. So as the cluster word gives an idea, it is going to break into clusters or groups. So this technique is most commonly used in India for knowing the immunization coverage. Okay, so particularly as per the guidelines that are given by the WHO, you need to include 210 people, 210 children in this sample. Okay, how you can include? You can break the group of 210 people. Okay, or the people into some clusters. Okay, you're going to break them into some clusters. The clusters are 30 clusters, means 30 groups, and in each group you are going to pick 7 children. Okay, so then it is 30 clusters into 7 children per each cluster. It is going to be 210, and the 7 children which you are going to pick should be in the age of 12 to 23 months, because this is a particular coverage which is for the immunization. Okay, particularly maybe the measles vaccine or any other vaccines which can be included in the primary immunization, you can use this particular technique that is given by the WHO. Because if you take the group into consideration, for example, a group can be heterogeneous. So what you're going to take in the next level, you're going to split the groups into clusters, the whole population into clusters. Most of your clusters will be homogeneous, whereas your entire thing is heterogeneous, but clusters will be homogeneous. In these clusters, you're going to pick, in these 30 clusters, you're going to pick 7, 7, 7 each, by which what you're doing, you're making a heterogeneous group of an individuals into homogeneous clusters so that the bias can be decreased. So that's the reason why a low error rate can be seen in this particular type of sampling, which is plus or minus 5%, which is comparatively better than any other thing. Okay, the main disadvantage and the limitation is, as the clusters are different from each other, the clusters cannot be compared with each other. You should not compare the clusters. So that is the main problem associated with the cluster random sampling. So we are done with the random sampling techniques. So now we are going to focus on non-random sampling technique. The first non-random sampling technique is the convenience technique. Convenience means whatever I like, according to the convenience of the researcher. For example, if I am a person who is doing the research, I'm going to pick whoever I like, whoever I'm interested. Okay, simply. Okay, right. For example, if a person is doing a sampling technique, so a study for which he has to collect the sample. So he is going to pick all his friends or all his known people who are accessible to him. So that is called as convenience sampling technique, which is called as based upon the convenience of the researcher. The second one is quota sampling technique. So quota sampling technique is nothing but according to me, it's just a combination of stratified sampling technique and a convenience. Means you're going to divide them into groups. Okay, you're going to divide them into quotas. According to the quotas, again you're going to do the convincing sampling technique only. Means the population first is segmented into n number of times, like your stratified random sampling. So once you do them and in n number, you have more clusters or something like this. In these clusters, I'm going to do convenience. Means whoever I like, I'm going to pick. For example, if I'm doing a study on a BDS students, okay, so how the BDS students are going to divide it? They are going to divide it into first years, second years, third years, fourth years, and the interns, right? So these are the stratified random sampling what I have done by dividing the people into the year which they are studying. Then after, in this first year, second year, fourth year, I need to pick, right? So I'm going to pick whoever people are close to me, like the first year people, whoever are close to me, whoever are frequently talking to me, according to the convenience, I'm going to pick. So it's a combination of stratified sampling plus the convenience sampling technique. The next comes is the snowball. Snowball word. What is a snowball? This is a snowball. Okay, this is a snowball which is falling down. As a snowball falls down, okay, what happens to snowball? The snowball's size increases because the snowball is going to pick the snow. As it rolls down, it's going to increase in the size. Okay, so this is most commonly used in the case of hidden populations. For example, I'm planning to do a study on the sex workers in Mumbai. Okay, I cannot directly go and ask, are you sex worker? All right, I cannot ask. Even the sampling technique, the best example is HIV. If you're doing a case on HIV or COVID-19 case, I can't randomly go and tell that, okay, are you COVID-19 positive or are you HIV positive? I cannot ask. Okay, and it's difficult for me to collect the sample also. So what I do, I get one or two individuals who are sex workers or who are HIV positive. I'm with my data or with my information, I'm going to tell one or two people, and I'm going to ask them, like, do you know anyone who is in circle? Because you are of same profession, right? Sex workers. So do you know anyone who was going to? So the sample which I am going to pick is going to pick other samples which are in the cluster, or the community of, like, for example, this is a sex workers community. So I'm going to pick one sex worker and I'm going to ask, if anyone is interested, or if anyone please let me know. So that particular person is going to tell me that, okay, these are the group of sex workers. So by which the snowball size, as it rolls down, the size increases, because the snowball is going to pick their own samples. So I'm going to select one or two. Those two people are going to pick others. Others are going to pick. As it rolls down, the size increases. This is called a snowball sampling technique, and it is most commonly used for hidden population which you cannot identify. So that is called as snowball sampling technique. Okay, I hope you're very clear with the sampling techniques. Okay, and the last one is clinical trial sampling technique. That is clinically, like if you're planning a study will have limitations, right? For example, I have planned a study. My study is like checking the saliva analysis, checking the salivary parameters in young individuals. That's what my study is. So young individuals means you are going to pick a group of individuals who have some limitations. So every clinical study has some limitations, some borderlines. Like I'm going to pick only Indians. Like for example, my study is only in my particular college. So I have taken the first year and the second year students. So limitations are first year and second year students. They should not have any systemic disease. All these things have limitations. So by the limitations increases, the size is going to decrease and cut off to a particular group. For example, it's a 100 group. Okay. For example, my college contains 1,000 people. So my limitation is 9 people. My target is the first year, second year. So your 1,000 population has dropped down to 200. Okay. So the next limitation is I don't want anyone who are having the systemic diseases. So the next level is, when the systemic diseases are there, I may drop to 180. The next level is, in this particular group, I have few more limitations. Like I don't want to take people who are already having a dental caries. Now it may drop to 50. So this sample is called as 50. That is called as clinical trial sampling technique. So which is not that important in examination point of view, but whatever I have mentioned, the types of random sampling, the types of non-random sampling, which are very, very important in examination point of view. Okay, done for now. Signing off, Dr. Srikanth from Team MDS Conquer.